see when you're entering, where the public enters there in that complex, where there have also been journalists throughout this time that are gathered to hear the latest from the doctors and updates on the Pope's health, which has improved to the point that he's ready to go back home to the Vatican there and to convalesce. The Pope also has a message, his reflections for this Sunday, which will be coming out at 12 o'clock. The Holy See Press Office will issue that message, as it has customarily these past few weeks. And at the same time, there's great expectation here, as you see people there with flowers and gathered to see the Pope after this long time, where the only appearance there's been is just a photograph that was released by the Holy See Press Office there of Pope Francis when he was in the chapel that's set up there, located on the 10th floor, where he was in prayer. And there have not been many images as well for the privacy of the Pope during this time of convalescence and serious illness to recover. At the same time, his voice was heard, actually, about 3 weeks ago, when he sent a very brief greeting and message of thank you that was played out on in St. Peter's Square during the recitation of the Rosary. A rosary's been led there in St. Peter's Square and in the Paul VI Hall inside the Vatican practically every evening since the Pope's convalescence, to pray for his good health and recovery. And the crowds there cheering Francis, as they await his appearance. And it's 12 o'clock, and the Pope's Sunday reflection has just been released. And in this reflection, Pope Francis writes, "Dear brothers and sisters, a happy Sunday to you." The parable in today's Gospel tells us about the patience of God, who urges us to make our life a time of conversion. Jesus uses the image of a barren fig tree, which has not borne the anticipated fruit, and which nevertheless the farmer does not want to cut down. He wants to fertilize it again, since it may bear fruit in the future. And the Pope writes, "And this patient farmer is the Lord, who works the soil of our lives with care and waits confidently for our return to him." And for our radio listeners, that applause is Pope Francis, who's waving. He's in a wheelchair at the balcony there, waving to the crowds below in his first public appearance since February 14th, apart from the photograph that was issued a week ago. And Pope Francis is greeting the crowds, waving to them and smiling. Now the microphone is being brought to him. I see a lady there with white or yellow flowers. Very nice. Pope Francis greeting a lady in particular who has these bright yellow flowers there as a tribute to him. And Pope Francis waving to the crowds, giving a thumbs up as well, and a smile. His voice is weak, but it's quite understandable after all the respiratory therapy he's undergone with Pope Francis now blessing the crowd. He just made the sign of the cross. But the difficulty in speaking is understandable with all the respiratory therapy he's undergone, the double pneumonia that's and the bronchitis issues he's been dealing with in recovering from, with some quite serious moments in that recovery as well. The doctors yesterday, in following his care at the hospital, explained the care over the past 5 weeks and how this will require time for him to get his voice back after receiving the high-flow oxygen and also some mechanical respiratory assistance during the night to sleep. His prognosis and all has improved immensely, and hence he's going to be going home later today. And so, but in recovering the voice and energy, that will take at least a couple months of convalescence. That's what the doctor said yesterday, and a limited meeting of people and crowds to recover. And now, continuing on what Pope Francis had to say in his Angelus here, in his Sunday address, that is, the Pope continues in his written message. In this long period of my hospitalization, I've had the opportunity to experience the Lord's patience, which I also see reflected in the tireless care of the doctors and healthcare workers, as well as in the care and hopes of the relatives of the sick. This trusting patience, anchored in God's unfailing love, is indeed necessary in our lives, especially when facing the most difficult and painful situations. And continuing in his message for this Sunday, just released, just coming out from the press office, and almost at the same time as Pope Francis appeared there briefly to greet the crowds below and wave to them and give his blessing. The Pope writes, I'm saddened by the resumption of heavy Israeli bombing on the Gaza Strip, causing many deaths and injuries, and I call for an immediate halt to the weapons and for the courage to resume dialogue so that all hostages may be released and a final ceasefire reached. In the Gaza Strip, the humanitarian situation is again very serious, the Pope writes, and requires urgent commitment from the conflicting parties and the international community. The Pope continues, on the other hand, I'm pleased that Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed on the final text of the peace agreement, and I hope that it may be signed as soon as possible and may thus contribute to establishing lasting peace in the South Caucasus. The Pope concludes, you are continuing to pray for me with great patience and perseverance. Thank you very much. I pray for you too. And together let's pray for an end to wars and for peace, especially in tormented Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, Lebanon, Myanmar, Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. May the Virgin Mary keep you and continue to accompany us on our journey towards Easter. Pope Francis writing in his Sunday reflection and message just published and issued by the Holy See Press Office. We can see here the crowds are gathered there in front of the Gemelli Hospital, the main entrance, pedestrian entrance there, where Pope Francis appeared for just a couple minutes there to wave and smile, and he gave a brief greeting there to a lady there who had a beautiful bouquet of yellow flowers that really kind of stood out there, especially when the sun was shining there a moment ago on this partly cloudy day here in the Eternal City. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this live broadcast and this celebration of Pope Francis' improved health and the fact that he will be returning to the Vatican today after just over 5 weeks of convalescence, when it all started on February 14th when his bronchitis became quite serious and he was taken to the hospital for the care that he needed. I'd like to also thank, before we sign off here, our partner broadcasters. They include EWTN Television, their channel in English, the Catholic Faith Network in America, Shalom World Television, Atmar Darshan Television, Catholic Television, and our radio stations Radio Maria Papua New Guinea, Luminous Radio India, and Radio Maria England, as well as all the television broadcasters, radio broadcasters who are rebroadcasting this live event and or all of you watching it on demand later on. This will all be available on Facebook as well as on our YouTube channel there, and full updates and lots of video coverage and interviews will be on VaticanNews.va and our social media profiles there. That is Joan signing off here and thanking you all for being with us here, and thanks to Adriano Vitali, our technical help there, and Massimiliano Menichetti for producing this broadcast. Laudetur Jesus Christus, praised be Jesus Christ.